right. Hello, Braves Country. Welcome to today's episode of Braves Country Convos. I am part one of your host, Jory Palmer, Director of Marketing here for the Braves, joined alongside the wonderful Lauren Sod, who you see everywhere, one of our game day hosts. And we've got a really special guest today, a woman who, if you watch the Braves, you probably have never seen her, but you've heard her name on the broadcast because everybody talks about how much they love her. We have the very, very well-respected, trailblazing, in my opinion, FanDuel Sports Network Atlanta Braves producer, Gretchen Kaney.
Hi.
Did you like that intro?
Yeah, I would take her in my pocket. Take her everywhere we go.
It's not like a Jason Kelsey intro that he does on his podcast, but
his for Taylor
justice.
Swift was amazing.
It was amazing.
Did you guys listen to that?
Yeah. I'm like, I would be hoarse if I did that. So we're gonna keep it a little more mellow. But Gretchen, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
We've got all sorts of questions for you today, but we're gonna start off with the fact that you are an actual Atlantan.
I am.
Is that correct? Born and raised?
Born and raised.
All right.
Yep.
So what are, as an Atlantan, what are some of your earliest Braves memories?
Well, I think like anybody my age, that 91 team was really what kind of cemented my love of this team. My mom, though, always said that my dad had the game on in the delivery room of the hospital.
Oh, my gosh.
So she would always say that the Braves on TV was the first thing I saw when I came out of the womb. So it's sort of like I'm right where I'm supposed to be, right? But, yeah, it was that 91 team, that worst to first. I mean, I remember going to games, watching Dale Murphy, guys like that in the 80s. But that 91 team was really when I fell in love with the Atlanta Braves, for sure.
That's awesome. That actually makes me laugh because when I had my third daughter in July of 2021, it worked out where we were in the delivery room, like the game was on, I was watching the game. All of a sudden we had a baby. The Braves Live post-game show was on. Did some other stuff, and I was like, oh, now it's like bass fishing. So literally, I can say that now to my third child. It's like,
oh my gosh.
We were just, that's pretty funny. That's a great memory.
So did you watch games like with your dad growing up? Like kind of what like cemented that?
The Braves on TBS for me was, again, like it started with that 91 team, but we had always watched it. My dad's a huge baseball fan. I remember sitting at the breakfast table in the morning and kind of going over box scores and him teaching me what an offer was, and kind of like asking a lot of questions about baseball. So yeah, it was really my dad. And then my dad was he's retired now, but he was a Methodist minister, and his church was right downtown Atlanta. And so we would always get tickets to the Sunday games, the Sunday afternoon games, and go to church in the mornings with him. And then we'd walk over to Fulton County and go to as many Sunday games as we could. And then, through the 90s, we started getting season tickets and going as often as we could. But it was really my dad who loved the Braves. And he's born and raised Georgian as well. So just he'd always had a love for baseball, particularly the Braves, and he gave it to me.
Yeah, so he was, growing up through the tough times in the 80s and but also the high times. That's awesome.
He's seen it all. But like I said, Dale Murphy, Bruce Benedict. I remember going to a game as a kid and asking my dad why they were booing Bruce, but they weren't booing. They were just chanting Bruce. I didn't understand that. Yeah. Those are some of my earliest memories, those two. But then the 91 team. I in the church, when you go through like confirmation or whatever, it's basically like all this baptism, but you get a sponsor for to like help you along the way. And then at the end, when you finish, your sponsor gives you a present, right? So our confirmation class was probably like 10 or 12 middle schoolers, and most of them got like a Bible or a cross necklace, cute like churchy things. I got tickets to the 91 World Series.
Oh my God, who was your sponsor? That's amazing. That's awesome.
She was awesome.
Like, can I get confirmed again?
Yeah.
Can we do
World Series tickets?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Game 5, 1991 World Series.
Wow.
It was awesome. As you know, we won all of those games in dramatic fashion, but the home games anyway. But yeah, that was what I got for confirmation as an 8th grader. So yeah, that was awesome.
That's so cool.
I won confirmation.
Your background, that like surprises us so much. The fact that you were majoring in Spanish and international politics.
Yeah.
I guess, how did that shift? And I guess what made you not want to pursue a career in sports right away?
I didn't know that you could. honestly, when I was in college. I loved the Braves, and that was like, my uncle and I always had this argument about vocation versus avocation, right? Like, can you combine it? Or do you just need to have a hobby? Or you just need to have something like that you're passionate about, that you love, but then go get a job where you make money. And that was kind of that was the only thing I really understood. I honestly didn't know that there were jobs in sports. I never thought about it like that, right? And certainly not in sports broadcasting. So yeah, I majored in Spanish and international studies, and I was gonna go save the world somewhere, work for a nonprofit in South America somewhere. And I loved the Braves, and it was actually my mom who found the trainee program, the year-long, I think they still do
I think,
it.
Jory, you did it, right?
Yep, I was a trainee back in the day. It's still going strong.
Okay, awesome. Because I didn't even know about it, and she found it and said, you might want this after college. Because I was going to go to grad school first, I thought, and then she found the trainee program, and I got it after college in what was then called the Public Relations Department. I think it's Media Relations now. But, so that's where, right out of college, I did the trainee program in Media Relations, and then that's really where I learned about jobs in sports and jobs in television.
So where'd you go from there after the trainee year?
So while I was a trainee, I was doing grad school at Georgia State at night. And then just basically finished that. But while I was a trainee, I met Glenn Diamond, who was the producer on TBS. Everybody heard about Glenn Diamond. Skip and Pete and Joe and all those guys always talked about Glenn Diamond. I met him as the trainee, and he was like, we might have some jobs for you at Turner Sports. And then the next season after my trainee, they were adding Spanish broadcast, or Spanish language broadcast to TBS, like the SAP.
Yep.
And so he's like, we need somebody to kind of help us with SAP. And it wasn't like, I didn't do a whole lot, right? But I was the SAP producer, which basically meant I counted the announcers in and out of break, right? I didn't do a whole lot more than that, because Glenn was the producer. The announcers just needed to know, when we were going to a video or a full screen or something like that. So anyway, that's what I did, because I had majored in Spanish, and I could help kind of translate back and forth for those guys. They didn't need it, but I could at least help I understood where they were going and what they needed. And then, I did that, which was really just a game day job. Showed up at first pitch, left when the game was over. I did that for a couple years until I got a full-time job at Turner Sports doing what was essentially a production assistant job, entry level into sports broadcasting for people that are taking that track. And that's the rest is how I got here.
Take us back to that 2020 season. What were some of those challenges? I'm sure none of us were expecting COVID to happen. Here you get your dream job, and it's like, oh wow, this looks completely different than any of us ever anticipated.
So for us, that how we did things pre-COVID is so different, and that COVID season really did shape how we've done everything. COVID was a challenge on so many levels. Not being away games were the hardest.
Making sure the announcers could see what they needed to see in real time, which is virtually impossible, because it's got to go from Citi Field back to here, sometimes through a studio, then to here. So the latency was an issue, just trying to make sure, it timed up that. And then what are we doing with our sideline reporters? They're not there. What sideline are they on?
Did you guys have sideline reporters?
We had sideline reporters here. So we would have Birdie on the field doing demos and stuff. And then we had what we called the bird's nest in right field corner that we kind of set up for a perch for him and for Kelly. And we just trying to be creative about ways to still entertain and still make it a fun atmosphere, even though for us we were broadcasting from a completely empty Truist Park.
So were you relying on the home team's feed and camera angles and all? You guys didn't even send your own camera people,
correct,
right? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that was the other challenging part, it was what they call a world feed, which the home show, so this was also challenging when we did home games. The home show basically needed to do kind of a neutral broadcast, right? So if the Mets did something good against us here, I needed to show that. I needed to show their replays and their happy,
Who's warming up in their bullpen.
Right.
Okay.
And try to follow the storylines of the other team as equally as ours, which now we wouldn't do. Right now, we want to showcase our team and our guys and entertain with them, and not necessarily be over the top about Pete Alonso, right? So in the COVID season, it was a much more sort of 50-50 kind of neutral broadcast, home and road, and us trying to insert, like say that they're going to a story on Pete Alonso, for example. Well, we're not going there, right? So me trying to jump ahead of that and here's a graphic on whatever.
Yeah, does
right?
somebody have something they want to say? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Just to try to still make it a Braves friendly and a Braves centric show in our own way. And the announcers were really the ones with the heavy lifting for that, because they were just trying to follow, but then also lead, right? And that's really what the challenge became in COVID, was how do we do a neutral show but still make it for our fans, for Braves country, and then make sure the announcers and the fans see what they need to see, because we're not there, right? And so we don't on the away games was the biggest challenge, but it also for me was a really good learning experience, because I'm also watching the home show, and kind of how they cut a show and how they do their replay sequences, and kind of, so for
Maybe
me I
pick
was
up a few tips and
I like that. Okay, I don't like that. So that I do think it helped me in my growth to kind of start that way and see what how other teams were approaching the same game, and just how different it can be throughout. All 30 producers and 30 directors are going to have a different style, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, it was good for me. But yeah, the biggest challenge was really the road games, and then just figuring out a way to make it. I mean, you know how it is if the stadium's empty, right? It's hard to generate energy
fathom
sometimes. So I
bet it was like being in a studio, and that's just brutal. I remember my first time ever in y'all's studio. I remember being like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. And I'm not someone who gets shy or embarrassed, but I was like, whew, I feel very out of my element.
So quiet compared
so
to
quiet.
30,
Well, and I had gone from doing the Hornets games where you've got everyone behind you screaming, and normally people wouldn't like that, but I'm I live it up. I'm I love that. And then I did a Hawks game from the studio, and I was like, it's it was just horrible. I was like, oh my God, this is awful. This just feels like the walls are closing in. And this time around this year was much better. I was like, whatever, I'm going to make my own fun in here and figure it out.
That probably was jarring at first.
Oh yeah, I didn't expect it. I'd been in a studio before, but yeah.
I always say if we're recruiting somebody new talent or anybody, let's bring them here first. Let's bring them to the Battery. Let's have them on the set out there. Let's have them here in the booth. Before we introduce them to the studio.
Yes.
Because if the studio's their first taste, they're I don't care for this, because it's just hard to create energy.
You feel like you're screaming.
Yeah.
I'm in there, I was doing jumping jacks. I'm doing punches. I'm all right, let's get psyched in here. Fine, let's find a way.
Oh, that's funny, because my sister-in-law has done a lot of sideline stuff, mainly in football, but I guess maybe it's different in the winter, because she's I love being in the studio because it's climate controlled. I'm not freezing my butt off on the sidelines, trying to make sure my heated vest works. She's the studio's great. I can control everything in there. It's I guess that's a different advantage.
Yeah, that part of it is cushy per se, and kind of nice, and you get to get your pizza downstairs and come back up and watch the game. So yeah, it's just different.
I also would say, and this is one thing I've talked to a lot about, that I think makes our sport different. Football's once a week, right? Or
yes. We were gonna
so the once a week nature of it, you of course you have energy, right? You've been building for it all week to be in there and to get to do the game. But when we do this every single day, and you're trying to create, trying to come up with stories. Fortunately for us, we've had a really good team for a really long time. This year being, the rare exception, so it hasn't been difficult as far as content, but just the everyday people, I think, sometimes neglect the everyday nature of this, and how I don't want to say trying, because it's not, but just how difficult that can be sometimes to manufacture energy, or to say, okay, we're doing this again. Okay, how are we going to do it differently tonight? What's the angle tonight? What's the what's the new thing we want to introduce tonight, and just coming back day after day, energized and refreshed, does get a little bit challenging from time.
Yeah, that was one of the questions we talked about too, was baseball is so unique. And I say all the time that my mentor at the Falcons would be like, I love hiring people from baseball because they really know what it's like to work. You know, it's so true. So with so many games, obviously you said you grew up being a big Braves fan, but what is your kind of in-season, day-to-day like when because you're on the road as well, right? So how do you kind of approach the season and keep it fresh and not get run down sometimes?
So I want to be clear, because I don't know when this is running, that it's September right now. So my answer right now is September is probably different.
We'll talk to her again in April, and she's going to be like, woo!
Than it would have been in April or May if you'd asked this. So I'm trying to make it more generic, but one thing I say to my bosses on the TV side is, when we're trying to bring new people in, is I need somebody that loves baseball. I need somebody that's passionate about baseball. I'll teach them the TV part. We can get them there. I can get them up to speed on the TV part, whatever it is, the job that they want. Because if they don't love baseball, they're going to burn out.
Yeah.
Right? And they're going to, doing it 162 home Am Road, night after night, you have to love it. And you have to love this team. That's what I look for first, is somebody that loves the Atlanta Braves. I'll teach them the TV part, because
I think of Wiley. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But I think of Wiley as a great example.
Oh, Wiley is the perfect.
Yes.
And I'm glad you brought Wiley up, because the next thing I was going to say is, after that, I need you to be a good teammate. And if you can be a good teammate, that goes so far in this job, because it's every day. Wiley's the perfect example. Wiley is one hell of a teammate. Wiley will do whatever on any and Wiley's such a great story for me, because he was a press box cashier.
Yep.
At Turner Field, and
I didn't even know that part of his story.
He was a press box cashier, and then he worked his way into, kind of like me, just meeting people and saying, hey, I want to do this. And then he did graphics in our truck. He ran the scorebook. He did talent stats in the booth with the announcers. And I'm saying those jobs to say, he's sat in every chair just about along the way. So when he's out there as the sideline reporter, he has such a great understanding for what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? And how we get to where we get, right?
Yeah.
And how he gets on the air and how his stories get told. He has such a great understanding for how that process works. He's just a great teammate. And I mean, to be clear, CJ Nitkowski, we had a long day. We had a long shoot in Macon, Illinois recently, where it was just Brian Snicker's hometown. We had a long day, and then the next day was a day game in Chicago. And he sent me a text and was like, hey, let me know what I can help you with. Let me know, do you need graphics? Do you need stories?
He is that stats guy and numbers.
And he's like, I'll come up with some stuff for you. We have all these sponsored stats. He's like, let me do the sponsors. He didn't have to do that. It's awesome. He's a major league pitcher. Yeah. But he's just a good teammate. Brandon Gaudin, great teammate. Without that, Brandon sent me a text this morning that was like, hey, I just want you to know we have a really good crew here. He's like, Tom Glavine's a great teammate.
Love that.
These guys are great teammates, and if you don't have that, then the season can really just drag. And I mean, it's the same for the guys in the clubhouse, right?
Yep.
Same for us in the front office too. It's a long season, no matter what role you play on the field, in the front office. Yeah, it is.
My producer Madison left 2 weeks ago. My heart, shout out Madison Lockram. My heart has been aching. And Gabby, who's in her spot, is great too. But I felt a little piece of our family left, and it's made these last couple weeks this season really hard.
This is what it is. You're a family.
Yeah.
Right.
You're around each other a lot.
From March to October, you're with them more than you're with your actual family. Right. So you just want them to be good people and be good teammates. And fortunately, that's I think the Braves organization has done that for a long time, and I think our crew in particular is as strong as it's ever been as far as good teammates.
That's awesome. So you mentioned all the other 30, or I guess 29 other producers for other teams, kind of how they do things, but do you know how many other female producers there are?
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're one of 3, or there's 4
Hold on.
total.
Let me make sure this is right, because I don't want to neglect.
What other
anybody.
teams have them?
All right, Rockies,
Okay.
Red Sox. Yeah, it's 3 this year. There were 4. 3, Rockies, Red Sox, me.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I really hope I'm not forgetting.
Apologies.
We'll
advance
come
if
back and
anybody's
record a
left
little
out.
bit like
Yeah.
fact check.
I'm going through all the teams right now, but that's.
Do you
Rockies,
guys
Red
have like a
Sox.
group message, or do you guys catch up with or
The-
follow each other at all?
Allison is the Rockies producer. I've gotten to know her pretty well. Allison and Erica, shout out, only crew that has female producer and female director.
Wow.
So shout out Rockies for that.
Nice.
But, so I've gotten close with her. Yeah, it's for a long time. It was just me. Well, I wouldn't say for a long time, but for a couple of seasons, it was just me.
Wow.
And that was, that there's certainly its share of challenges, with that. And it just, kind of personality-wise, sort of depends where those challenges come.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're doing better. I went to a MLB broadcast meeting in New York several years ago, and I was counting. I was like, let me count.
Mhm.
And it was probably a room of about 200 people, and I would say there were fewer than 10 women in the room.
Yep.
But the most recent one I went to, it was at least 50. So we're
Wow.
getting
Yeah.
we're getting.
I always
better.
pay attention to everywhere you go, like concerts, movies, like the women's bathroom line's always so long. But like the press box, I feel like there's never anybody in
No.
there whenever I go in there. And there's like a good bit of women up there, but that's one thing I've always thought about ever since I started working in baseball a couple years ago with the Orioles. I was like, man, women's bathroom is always empty.
Oh, that's funny. So, okay, break it down. I mean, you two know this, and my role, just for our listeners, I work really closely with the FanDuel Sports Network marketing folks, not as much on the production side, but all right, so you got a producer,
Mhm.
director, associate director.
Mhm.
What's the difference?
Okay. Okay. I'm going to say this is going to sound like I've inflated.
Like you sit in a throne?
Exactly. So
Boss and
You
crew.
do this.
producer's in charge of all of it, right? Like content, graphics, sales items, replays, sort of guiding the talent where they're headed, right? Producer's sort of in charge of kind of your overall vision of the broadcast, right? And does sort of oversee all of it. Director, which is kind of like 1A, I would say. They would probably say they're right beside me. But 1A, director is in charge of anything live. So all the live cuts, right? The camera cuts. If you're in the TV truck and you're watching, the the director is calling all the live cuts.
So he's
Like
in
go
the
to
truck.
camera 1,
Yeah.
go to camera 2,
Yeah, ready
go
to
to camera
take
3.
2, ready 4, take 4. Ready to go to and then I'm doing in-game. Once we get in, most of what I do is honestly before first pitch with the content. But then in-game, director's doing all the live cuts and then looking at me if we're going to replays, right? Like somebody hits a homer, he's cutting live. Everything you see live in that home run is the director. And then anything replay, slow-mo of the swing or the high fives or where did the ball land or, showing if it's not a homer, showing if it was a hit or an error, or if the runner was safe or out with the replays. That's the producer's realm.
Like you're like telling the story and
Yeah.
kind of like painting the picture,
Yeah.
and the director's like kind of making it happen.
Mm-hmm. And then coming in and out of break, kind of what we're doing, if we're doing a sales item or if we're doing a promo, or that's all me also.
Okay.
So the director is following me unless the ball is in play, is probably the best way to put it.
Okay, yeah.
So when the ball is in play, that's all the director, and I just kind of sit back and let them cook, right? But then once we get kind of to a down moment, that's when I jump in with replays or graphics or whatever story, go to the reporter, whatever the stories are. That's the basic way to and then the AD, the associate director, he or she is kind of making sure I get all my sales items in, which is a lot. Getting us in and out of commercials, counting us in and out of breaks and that type of thing. And then we also have what I would call an associate producer, and that person is doing the stat-driven graphics, the sales items that here's our Yellowwood brand bringing the lumber, and it's whatever. Ozzy Albies crushes the Cubs,
Yeah.
So that's kind of the associate producer's job, which is that's really where I started. That's really where I got my start, was in doing graphics for the TBS games.
I thought of this question the other day. We were in the clubhouse, and like Ozzy's over here, Pierce Johnson's over here, and they're yelling back and forth to each other because Ozzy's mad that Pierce didn't get on the video game they were supposed to, like, last night. So as Pierce, they were playing, they said Fortnite. So, and I was like, oh, like, you guys play after every game? He's like, I got to. Like, they need something to unwind. So I know you love baseball, but do you have like a guilty pleasure, or how do you like unwind at night?
That's
or
a good question.
What's your...
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, I love trash TV. Like, I love reality shows. Like, tonight I'm eating a pot of mac and cheese. It's been a week. I'm eating a pot of mac and cheese and watching Beverly Hills Housewives. Like, just BS. Like,
Okay, I'm with you on the mac and cheese. 100%.
Warm comfort.
I don't watch TV during the season. The last thing I want to do is look at another screen.
Yeah.
Right, because I'm just staring at them all day. I do read. I read a lot. And especially because we travel so much, like, it's just a good getaway for me.
Like fiction, nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm sorry, fiction. That's all. We'll say fiction. What is it called? Like, what's
Is
the
that
new thing? Like,
real, or I
like
can't...
romanticy? Is that what it's
Yeah,
Oh,
called?
Jory's fairy smut. Jory's...
Okay, I'm like, can we say it? Can I talk about the type
I think
of
it's
books I'm reading
hilarious.
right
No,
now?
I was like, Jory's getting
Lauren thinks I'm a
spicy.
complete weirdo.
No, they're spicy, for sure. Yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it. I don't know if that's allowed to
There's
say
the
or
whole,
not.
like,
No, I love
closed
it.
door and open door romanticy. So
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
when
guys.
this is off, we're going to talk a little bit more about
The
this.
fairies.
Yes.
don't think about the wings and the pointy ears.
Exactly. Thank you. Oh, I got some recommendations for you.
Oh my gosh, guys, I can't stop it.
Okay, so that's helpful. So, so I kind of want to switch gears a little bit too, because my opinion is that we have the best broadcasters in the game. Obviously, I know a lot of you behind the scenes too, but what I think makes us stand out is everybody just seems like they're really having fun, and they have the freedom to kind of joke around with each other. I think Brandon is hysterical, and his self-deprecation everybody loves. Like, just him diving into second base and like the crap y'all get, like, it's just amazing. Wiley with his slow-mo running on the beach or eating everything in sight. CJ seems to have fit right in. So just talk about that vibe. I mean, I'm assuming, since I do actually picture you in there on a throne. Like,
I'm going to recommend this.
Settle down now, boys.
Right.
I need a new chair.
And even when Jeff comes in, Tom Glavitt, obviously, like, everybody loves Peter Moylan. I mean, it's just such a fun crew. Everybody seems like they've got the leeway to be themselves. So how important is that to you? And do you ever have to tell somebody to lighten up, or maybe it goes too far and you got to bring them back the other way?
Both. I think both things happen. It is certainly a priority, for sure, for me. Like we said about the long season, if you're feeling like you have to be somebody that you're not going to make it, right? So the more comfortable everybody is, and the more freedom they feel like they have to be themselves, then the better they're going to be, right? It's for any job, right? If you're trying to be somebody you're not going to be successful for very long. So it is certainly a priority, but I will say I wasn't super comfortable with it right away. It was, when was Poor Larry a Crown? When we did the four-man booth game. 23.
Yeah.
We did a four-man booth game, as people might know, with Glavin, Smoltz, Chipper, and Frenchie.
Yep.
And before that game, my old boss, he's not around anymore, I was like, what is, like, can I just let them be?
What's too far?
Like, are we, are we protecting sort of this kind of idea of the integrity of the game, right? And because that's always kind of what I've been preached, like, the pitch is what's most important. The outcome of that pitch is what's most important. And he was like, Gretchen, I want you to trust your instincts and just kind of let them be. And it was so good.
So good.
And I kind of took a lot of pressure off myself before that game, and I really have kind of continued that mantra ever since, which is like, you know what, actually, what it showed me was actually when they're comfortable and they're feeling loose and feeling more like free to be themselves and show their true personalities, it's better. Like, we still showed the game, and we still like protected the game, and fortunately it was a great game,
Yeah,
you know,
the
for
outcome
us.
was amazing.
But that wasn't lost in them being able to be themselves and make fun of each other and do all of those things, and so that was really what kind of helped me embrace that. And then the other thing, I think you have this background too, but I was at Turner for so long, and I worked on that Inside the NBA show.
Oh yeah.
And so that was kind of like in my mind, like, you know what makes that show
Love
good?
that. That's
is
such
that
a,
they let Charles Barkley
let it
lead,
rip.
right?
do.
And they're like, we'll
Yes.
apologize after if we have to. But they don't have to, because they can trust him, you know?
Yes.
And that was what happened that night. I was like, you know what? I can trust these guys. I can trust myself. I can trust my crew. Like, and we're just going to let people be. And I've been able to continue that. And to your point, Brandon is so good about it, right? And Jeffrey is awesome. Like, I call him Jeffrey because that gets him in line.
love
Like,
that.
I don't.
I was
call
going
him,
to say, I'm like, who is she talking
I don't
about?
call him different core.
Yeah.
I have to call him by his full government name, so
I
he
love
gets
it.
in line. Because otherwise, anyway. But yeah, Jeffrey is so good with his charisma and just kind of like knowing what Brandon's so good about is he finds that line. Right, he knows right where that line is.
He's like looking at it,
Yep,
and he's
like
towing right.
he's like staring it down and maybe straddling it occasionally, but he's never going to cross it. And that's what makes it so fun, right?
Yeah.
Because he's being himself. He gets Glavin to be more comfortable being himself. CJ as well, like you said, fit right in. CJ is low-key hilarious. You have to be paying attention because sometimes it's said in the same tone as something else, but he's low-key hilarious.
And so smart.
Very smart.
Almost like too
Very
smart
witty.
first. Like, it's crazy. And it's just so fun, like, seeing them in the press box, and they are the exact same person that they are off camera, like on camera.
Well,
Yeah.
I love too that with Jeff. I mean, we've got him lined up to come on the podcast at some point, and Katie, his wife. But they've got a gaggle of children, and I love that sometimes y'all pan and there's one of his kids sitting
Yeah.
up there in between you two, which is so cool because as someone who sometimes, like, if I'm coming, I've got to bring a child with me to work. Like, that's just the reality. So it's so
And
cool
your
to
children
see.
have been on the Braves
They've
Vision
been
board
on Braves
before. They've been in
Vision,
interviews.
they've
Like,
been props. They've been models. So it's just cool.
Well, you don't want to have to make
that.
anybody choose,
Yeah.
right? And Jeffrey's like, he's got such a priority on those kids. You know, that's why I had to step back and do fewer games, which we all, of course,
Oh, yeah.
respect.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, bring them whenever you want. If it gets you here, you know, and then it gets them here, and we love them, you know.
Yeah.
They take care of them up there in the booth.
whole
We
big
probably
family. Oh,
give
eat all
them
the
too much
candy
sugar.
and
Yeah, we
desserts, I'm
definitely
sure.
give them too much sugar, but then we get to send them home. Katie might not care for that, but
Right.
yeah.
You kind of mentioned this earlier that, you know, one of the big things you look for, especially in talent, is just that someone can be a good teammate. And this is kind of like my selfish question is like, you know, someone who wants to work with you guys, I'm like, ooh, okay, like, how can I pick your brain? What is maybe like your pet peeve of a talent that you've worked with, or like one quality that you just see, and maybe some broadcasters that you haven't had the best experiences with, or maybe you've been so fortunate to work with amazing people your whole career, but like, what's that one thing that you're like, I really don't like that quality in someone, or that action, or that's kind of a hard question.
It is, but I think the best way to answer it is if you make it about you. It's like if you make it about yourself. Like, there's a difference between saying, I'm going to try to give an example. There's a difference between saying, Brian Snitker said this, and I talked to Brian Snitker and he told me, right? Like, that's a very subtle, but that's a very small difference.
It speaks volumes, though.
But it can get bigger, right? There's a difference between I did this, or I went here and I blah, 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 to Ozzy said, right? Or, you know, like and it's a very small thing, but I've seen it get worse. Oh, like, it starts little, like just like that, but I've seen it get worse where it just becomes more about the person, or the talent, as we call it,
And not about
in
the game
industry,
and the story.
and not about what you're trying to tell me, right? Like, your story is great, right? What the access that you got and what you are sharing with the audience is awesome, but not the part where you made it about you and you made it about that you got this access and that you did this. And that's not what we're here for. We're here for just what you learned, right? And not necessarily how you got it. So that, I think this would be for anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like not just in front of the camera, like behind the camera as well. Like if you start to get in a place where you're making it more about you and not about the broadcast, that's probably my biggest pet peeve. Is like I hear myself saying a lot, okay, it's not about you, like, and sometimes it might need to be, right? Like sometimes sometimes honestly with CJ, I'm like, CJ, I'd rather hear about your like career, right? Like
Yeah, and your story, and like tell me a story that you
He
experienced.
does not like talking about himself. He's like Gretchen, I'm not a Hall of Famer. I'm like, I know, but you pitched in the majors for 10
that's
years.
still freaking
Right?
cool.
That's 10 years more than anybody else that's listening, basically. So he's one where I'm almost like, okay, I want more.
Come on.
Yeah, I want to bring that out in you more. But yeah, I would say it's losing sight of the fact that we're a team and we're all in it, for the same reason, which is to have a great show night in and night out. When you start to make it about you, that's probably my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice for anybody in any.
Watching all sorts of broadcasts now, not ours, but like trying to be like, who's? Oh, she just said.
Well, and you can tell, like, for so long, I feel like everybody wants, like, the halftime, post-game questions. Like, those interviews are just, I think they're really tough because, like, you want to just do the quick answer, the quick question. And I see so many people, like, setting it up, like, look how much I know. And I'm like, get to the damn point. They want to go celebrate with their team. Like, you don't need this big whole
when
long.
The question is longer than the answer.
Yes.
That you've made it about you.
Yes.
Because
look how much I know.
It's like, and it's also like you get more on camera time because your question's so long.
Yeah.
Like I don't need that. I would rather hear more from them than from you.
What question is going to elicit the best answer? Like sometimes it's not this long-winded, big, beautiful question. Sometimes it's the short one.
Yeah.
So you mentioned being a good teammate and kind of some other things, but what else are you looking for that really sticks out? Especially kind of thinking, maybe if you're giving advice to girls, or not just, and guys coming up in the industry, what are you telling them, whether they want to be on camera or off camera? What are those qualities and that kind of, what's the word? What you say it about the athletes too, the intangibles that they have that you're like, okay, this is a person we want to put on that track.
So, this is sort of a follow-up to your question as well. The other thing that I can tell right away is if you haven't done your homework, right? If you haven't done the research, if you haven't done the work ahead of time, I always joke about this with my crew, like the inside the truck, is if you show up to that truck and you don't know who's pitching, I will lose my mind. That is like the one thing where I'm like,
that's the controllable.
Like, you can be at a stoplight and find out who's starting.
You can
today.
Ask Siri.
Yeah,
you can literally
exactly. Like, so just a base, and that's I would like you to have more knowledge than that when you walk in the truck. But that is my example of you got to show up having done your homework, right? Having done your research. To go back to Wiley Ballard, he's the perfect example, right? Like that kid studies baseball in December, like he does his homework. He doesn't ever show up and say, hey, what do you think we should talk about, right? He shows up and he's like, hey, I got this. And, some of them stick, some of them don't, but he's already he's just very prepared. All of our guys are. Brandon sends a long sheet of notes on the other team to us every day.
Wow.
And every day, right? And it's hard to do 162 in a row. So I would say, do your homework, be prepared. If you want to break into the industry, but that's the part where it's difficult for me to give advice now because like I said, the path is so different, but you got to talk to everybody. You can't be shy, right? You can't be hesitant to approach anyone, reach out, you meet somebody that knows somebody, you ask for them to connect you, and you kind of get in that way. But then when you are ready to have the conversations, you've done your homework. You know kind of who you're talking to and what you're wanting them to know about you as well. I think that, to me, that's it. It's don't make it about yourself, and that's the kind of be a good teammate part of it, but also, like, do your research, do your homework, know what it is you want to share, whether it's in front of the camera or behind it, before you get put in that spot to do it.
Yeah.
To your point on not being shy and talking to everybody, I made an oopsie in the press box the other day. I'd never seen you and Jill like in the same room. So she was in front of me and she had come out of the booth and she was walking that way and I was behind her. I'm like, okay, like I know we're going to have Gretchen on the podcast. I was like, hi, Gretchen. And she turns around and goes, thank you so much, but I'm Jill. And I'm like, I want to bash my face through that wall right there. And I'm like,
please understand that happens all the time.
Does it?
she was like, it's such a compliment. So she loved it as a comment, but I'm like,
she's the Hawks producer. So she's like, so that's one thing I'm proud of about our region, like FanDuel South, is female baseball and NBA producer, which I don't think any other region can say that. But yeah, that happens all the time.
I'm like, I feel like a little 22-year-old that doesn't know where she is again.
I
I'm
walked
like,
in our
God.
home truck in April, and one of our technical crew, that's coming in from out of town, he goes, hey, Jill. I go, I'm going to turn around and go back out and come back in.
Try this again.
And we're going to try it again. Somebody's going to tell you. She
She's
was
like,
embarrassed. But
she's
I'm
like, it's fine, it's fine. I'm like,
fine.
no, it's not.
It happens all the time.
That's great advice, though, because one of my biggest pet peeves is when you're interviewing someone. I mean, I think it translates no matter what your role is, but if you're not prepared, and then I'll kind of go through my spiel, whatever, and I'll be like, okay, so what questions do you have for me? And the person's like, oh, nothing, and I'm like, really? You couldn't think of
All right, you're
one
done.
thing
Yeah.
to ask me?
That was
Then
easy.
I was helping out the PR department with some interviews, and on the other side of that, the guy I was talking to, he was like, just wove in, so, as a publicly traded company. So I'm like, okay, he knows we're publicly traded. He said something about, there was like two other very specifics that it was like reference something that we had done and also. So I'm like, oh, he clearly did his research, knows what we've been up to this season, knows all these things, and kind of wove them into the conversation, asked about it. And I was like, that guy was really prepared.
Yeah.
And it does. It leaves a good impression in your mind.
It does.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So, okay, a couple more questions left here. What is a sporting event you haven't produced but would be a total dream to?
Well, the easiest answer for that is the World Series game. I know that's not the question, but I think if anybody in my chair, if you're not aspiring to produce a World Series game, I mean, that's the ultimate dream for me and I think it could happen. I feel like it. I mean, there's still a path for that to happen.
So is
for
that
me.
next step to be like on like a national, like a national network or?
I think there's a path because I'm an independent contractor, where I could stay doing Braves, but also do postseason baseball. I do postseason baseball for Turner.
Okay, so you are.
So that's
So
very
I'm
full
doing-
circle for you then.
Yeah, it is.
That's awesome.
It is, but I would love to produce a World Series game. As far as a different sport that I've never worked, probably tennis.
Oh,
that's a good one.
I think I would enjoy being
Do you
a part of,
play?
I do.
okay. I just started getting into it and taking lessons. I played lacrosse in college, so I need that competitive. Do you play tennis? Because we live close.
Before giving birth 3 times, I was
So
on
maybe
the hockey
we
team.
try it.
I've been playing more pickleball recently.
Okay, I like that too.
But I would love to get back in it.
Yeah.
So you're off season full of tennis then,
Yes,
I bet.
that's
Fantasy.
pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good off season.
You guys and your
a lot
weird
of travel
books.
as well, like
These weird books.
a lot of beaches
Weird
to visit
books.
and read weird books. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
why not?
Exactly.
So, well, Lauren, what else we got?
I think that's all we've got for you. Yeah, we've taken up so much of your time, and I know
No,
you've
not
got
at all.
busy day, busy game ahead of you. She has to go to work after this,
Yes.
so
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank
This
y'all.
was
This
so
was
great to
fun.
get your perspective
Thank
on
you.
just everything. I think people are really going to enjoy some of the little stories you've told and getting just like a behind the scenes look at everything.
Thank
and I
you.
love your party nails too.
thank
They
you.
Those are fun.
That's right.
Those are fun.
That's right.
So. All right, Braves Country. We'll see you next time.